continuing with health care. Do you support legislation that would require employers to provide sick leave?
I do, and this is
sorry,
I do, and this is another difference between Craig and I, who brought this up earlier. Sick leave. There's a bill that was before the legislature in the past session would have required employers with over 50 employees to provide 5 days of paid sick leave. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing because there are studies that show that presenteeism, which is basically the act of showing up to work when you're sick, costs American business $183 billion a year. Whereas allowing people to stay home, absenteeism, only costs American business $118 billion a year. That's a study out of Cornell University. So there's actual business reasons to support legislation like that. But it goes farther than just saying that it's a good business policy to provide your workers health care. It also goes to the fact that these are families we're talking about. It's not often, when I have to use a sick day, it's not often for myself, it's for my children. So if I can't take a sick day, but I have to send my child to school sick, he's also getting other people's kids sick and then passing it on to their parents, and it becomes a problem where we're expanding people staying home from work, and that is detrimental to our economy. One other fact about paid sick leave is that of the bottom quarter of wage earners, 37% of them don't have paid sick leave. So really, what a bill like this does is it protects people who on the lowest side of our income scale, and those are the people who need the most protection.
Thank you, Mr. Stein.
Thank you. I don't know what a paid sick leave bill would look like in the next legislature. It's not been a bill that I've supported in the past, and it wouldn't be a bill that I would support in the future. Most employers that I have communicated with, CBIA, Small Business Administration, have all felt that when the state gets into determining what a business has to provide for sick leave, they're pretty much setting about a course of more businesses leaving that state. We would be the only state in the nation to require businesses to have paid sick leave. So while we talk about trying to create jobs in the state, and we talk about trying to improve our economy in the state, and having people that graduate here stay here, my opponent and his party believe that the best way to do that is to tell some small business that they have to supply some number of sick leave days. There were years when that started out with employers of 500 or 5,000. And I think most people on the Labor Committee that have supported that bill know it's never going to pass here in the state of Connecticut unless you get the number down low enough where some people think it's insignificant. I know how the system works. You get it passed at 50 people or 25 people, and next thing you know, it's going to get ratcheted up. And what happens with people that have an employee contract that are bound by bargaining agreements? I don't think there's been any language in there in many iterations of that bill that have exempted people who are currently bound by bargaining group packages. So I think we're headed down a very dangerous road. Clearly, if my opponent gets elected, that's where we're going. But I want to make it clear that those are not the kind of things I think the state of Connecticut needs to be involved in. We need to try and help businesses grow in the state of Connecticut, not hurt them. And if CBIA and the Small Business Administration thought it was the right way to go, they would embrace it, and they do not.
Thank you. We have a growing number of senior citizens. Housing the gap between raising education costs and fixed income of taxpayers is resolved.
And I'm getting close.
Then the question is near and dear to your heart.
It's more important, right? I do think that we provide an excellent education in most communities in the state of Connecticut. I think there's been a lot of information provided around the state that some of our larger municipalities are still struggling, still falling farther behind. We have the ability, I think, to make a more affordable education system in the state of Connecticut. And by doing that, I think we can make it more affordable for seniors. As most people know, the taxes that they pay on their real estate and their automobile and their business fund places like this. And if the costs of these facilities continue to spiral out of control, then it's going to be unaffordable for seniors to stay in the state of Connecticut. And I think that's something that I would like to try and see us change the course of. I think we can do that in a number of ways. Number one, the bargaining arrangements within the state of Connecticut don't really allow municipalities the kind of options that they have asked for in terms of negotiating agreements. It's always the threat that there's no strike, and therefore there'll be no ability to overcome a court challenge. And so I think there are ways where we could exclude some of the costs that are normally built into considering whether or not a contract is affordable, such as whether or not your fund balance is part of that equation. Some people may not know, but towns in this area are required to have a fund balance if they want to borrow money, and your bond rating is in part based on how much you have in fund balance. So if you have always had to include that in your ability to pay as a municipality, it will always be held against you and the ability to pay in terms of an increased wage or increased benefit. So I think we can make changes so that senior citizens find this more affordable. But I think it has to be done through negotiation, and it has to be done through changes in what we have in terms of mandates on municipalities, both at the local level for education and the municipalities.
Obviously, the way to make things more affordable in this state is to have a more responsible budget, to have more responsible fiscal policy. There's no question about that. President Obama said a few weeks ago, and I'm going to mangle this quote, but it's something I agree with completely, in that we spend more money per student in this country, and certainly in the state of Connecticut, than anywhere else in the world. Yet we don't get the results to support that. We don't have the best schools in the world. That's just a fact. Nationally, I think we rank 21st in reading comprehension and 22nd in math skills. So there's a lot of room to make up. So when you're feeding money into a system, you're feeding money into a broken system. As far as limiting education or getting control of education spending, which is a large section of the state's budget, we have to really whiteboard the programs and take a look at what's working, what can work differently, what can work better. Throwing money into the system is not going to help anything. We have to streamline and create goals to make sure that they're achievable. And that goes into also, by the way, into the budget. When you look down the line items, you'll see, about every 10 or so lines, something that refers to aging or retirement. I think we could consolidate these programs across that are currently operating in multiple agencies to have a more reactive and a more comprehensive system that our seniors have one place they can go to for all the resources that they're going to need. Again, that's why this is an exciting time to be going to the legislature, because we're going to have to make decisions. And while we're making the decisions, we can make our government work more effective